Welcome to Noble Warrior. My name is CK Lin. This is where I interview entrepreneurs and practitioners about how they master their mind and body to pursue a life of greater purpose, joy, and abundance. In today's episode, we have the creator of Three Mics, Blocks, the Netflix special, as well as the podcast. He's mostly known for being the co-creator of the Chappelle Show, Half Baked, etc. Please welcome to Noble Warrior, Neal Brennan. Thanks so much for being here, Neal.
My pleasure.
One thing I really appreciate about you, specifically about your podcast, really is the honesty of our blocks. And through that conversation, you normalize conversations about them. With these your friends and who are cultural leaders, comedians, musicians, etc. So I'm curious for you, what are some of the insights that you got from interview all these people talking about their deepest personal barriers, struggles along the way?
Um, I would say the biggest one, the biggest one would probably be that we're all having kind of the same experience, just at different times. Meaning, I have a theory that by the end of life, you will have been every person. Like, you will have been like the breaker-upper, the person who gets broken up with, the cheater, the person who gets cheated on, the thief, the victim of thievery, you'll just be everything. So I think the one thing that I come away with it's like not easy to be anyone. I think some people it's very, very difficult, but I don't think it's easy for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're having these conversations with these larger than life figures, I know they're just your friends, but for the average people, they look up to these celebrities. They're like, wow, these people are just like us, having these challenges, struggles, just like everyone else. So it's really cool to actually hear, all of you speaking about this, which normalize. It's
Yeah, the
okay to have
thing
struggles.
last couple weeks ago with Jerry Seinfeld saying that he hears a voice in his head going, "You're not a comedian." It's like, okay, well, if Jerry Seinfeld's not a comedian, then who is? You know? So that's sort of my takeaway with all this stuff is like, oh, okay, that's everyone, and I can imposter syndrome is kind of almost being a irresistible facet of being alive.
Yeah. And which, again, I so appreciate that. And I know that you and I were talking privately how for you, these conversations are really the come from places your personal curiosity and interest. And the secondary effect is, sure, others listen to this. It may help them, you know, grapple with their own struggles. But your come from place is truly your own curiosity, your own passion about this. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I don't think with people when people ask about the way I do my specials, especially three mics and blocks, um, they're like, "Are you trying to help people?" Not really. I'm trying to do a good show. Um, if it helps people, great. But I don't think that that's a it's not a good way to start a comedy show. It's probably not going to be very funny. Um, it might be cute and sweet, but Hallmark can do cute and sweet, you know? So I just try to make it entertaining and revealing and um, in some ways try to tell on myself to kind of stop doing it. Those things where people say if you're in sort of a chat group with people and your motivational buddies or whatever, I almost see these specials like that, especially three mics and blocks, where I'm trying to point out my issues so that almost like so people see me, they'll be like, "Come on, man, I thought you were over that." But But yeah, so I don't. I think it's one thing if you're trained as a mental health professional to try to help people with their mental health, but my first priority is a good show that kind of is entertainment for the audience and I guess helps me, whatever that means. It helps me in the way I think I need help, which is probably wrong, which is being more honest in public with my own issues.
I mean, again, I don't want to be a fanboy about it, but I really appreciate the willingness and courage to be able to do that. To me, people who seem like they're from the mountaintop, they got all the answers, they can walk on water. To me, for me, there's a part of me who's like, yeah, we're all human. Come on, man. Are you really that way? Behind closed doors? Versus the people that I really admire is, hey, here's all of my both the highest self, purpose and all those things, discipline, and at the same time, I'm still human and I have all the shit, right? All the imperfection, just like everyone else. And to me, that's bravery. To me, that's courage. To me, that's truly the embodiment of that versus just like I got everything handled kind of a thing.
I
So
mean, I don't I agree with you that I try to make it, any of these anybody who's doing self-help, almost all of them have had some article debunking them. So all the online spiritual gurus, and in my own life, it's all sort of anyone who's held themselves out as some sort of pillar of mental health has quickly been, you know, has quickly fallen from the perch that they put themselves on. I think it's silly. It reminds me of Bill Cosby lecturing people about interpersonal behavior and then ended up being basically a rapist. So um, I think it's so hard to run it's like the profit margins on our own mental health are so narrow. I don't have enough mental health to be like doling it out. Like here's what you do. Here, it's such a struggle to get myself to do it. So whenever somebody goes, or like a girlfriend will be like, "I changed you," or "I'm gonna change you," it's like, lady, change yourself, because it's so hard to do. Take it from me, who's been doing it for 30 years. The change is so small and incremental, and that's with almost a relentless pursuit on my end. And it was so small and incremental for so long that the idea that I'm somehow, I try not to dole out any, I don't like it when people are like, you know what I do, guys? And I'm gonna show you, and after this, and here's 10 tips and all this stuff. Anyone who does this, claps and does this, probably is not trained in any sort of mental health. Secondly, I just don't, it's too difficult, and I don't like when people grandstand about being, it's this what I call wisdom theater, where everyone does things and they use the right words and they use their hands in the right way, and but meanwhile they're not like that. Most of them are, I mean, half the business people are like, ends up being incredibly controlling and insulting their employees and underpaying and all this stuff. So I just try to be like, this is what I'm like, this is what the people I know are like, and here are the things that helped a little bit. And I've gone to a lot of 12-step fellowships, and the thing that they say at the end of every meeting is take what you want and leave the rest. And that's how I feel with this stuff is I'm in no position to tell anyone what they should be doing, other than I feel like I am in a position, I feel as a human being, I'm in a position to say, stop telling people the secret to life unless you've been doing it for 25 years.
yeah, and then that
Everybody else is struggling.
and that actually to me anyway, because I'm in the personal development industry. I know you kind of make fun of the whole profession of coaches. I am a
I
coach.
sure
Yeah,
do.
yeah. It's all right. It's bring it on, right? It's all good. But from my own coaching journey, the whole idea of coming from the mountain that just don't work, and from an outsider perspective, the way you share about your personal story. Hey, here's my struggle. Here's what I did. Here's the outcome. Try this. It helps you, great. It
I
doesn't
don't
help
even
you,
say try it. I don't even say try it. I
no.
don't. I really don't. Like if no, because I don't know what's going to work for. I've done 15 things. So first of all, I don't know if the 15th thing only worked because I did the 14 before them. I don't know what's going to work for an individual. I don't know what their psychological profile is. I don't know what their financial profile is. There's so many intangibles that I don't, I think all you can say is like, here are a bunch of things. Here are things. Even with medication in therapy, they don't know why SSRIs work. They don't even really know what they're doing. They don't know what SSRIs are doing. They think they're leaving serotonin in the brain longer and da 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 da, but they're not sure. So I can't very well, in good conscience, CK, um, prescribe what anyone should do. I
Yep.
really don't. I mean, obviously, there's like foundations of like be motivated and don't be lazy and pursue your dreams. But I don't know what the first of all, I don't know what the right pace is. You know what I mean? Like I can't say like if you play video games, you're never gonna. I don't know. Maybe video games help you unwind. It's like there was a study recently, and again, even saying that there's a study, most of these studies are not replicated, not replicable, and they're done by grad students, and they did it in a sample size of 6 people. So even saying there's a study, it's like a little nonsensical. But um, so I don't know what anyone should do, but I can say what I've done, and if you feel like many things have helped me, but I don't expect the most helpful things that I've done, which is ayahuasca, DMT, and MDMA. MDMA is pretty predictable and stable. Ayahuasca and DMT are not, and I cannot, in good conscience, go. You know what you got to do? Some lady or some guy, this incredibly volatile, terrifying thing I did. It worked for me, but like I can't go, yeah, you should go off the side of Niagara Falls in a barrel. That's what I did. Worked for me. You should. So that's the thing is I can't really tell anyone what they should be doing. And if I
Well,
do,
that
don't
is
listen to
actually
me.
well, that's actually another thing I really appreciate about you is you respect people's agency so much that you really try your very best not to even prescribe anything, even though it may help you the full 14, 15 things that you've tried. So speaking of ayahuasca, we have a common passion for it.
Yes, sir.
I know that
Yes.
you try not to prescribe it, but almost every podcast conversation it inevitably brings it up, and you have certain passion and intensity behind it. So, why specifically are you
But I
trying?
always say with a caveat, like, don't get me wrong, it's very volatile and very dangerous, and I'm not worried. I'm a little concerned about the Pandora's box effect that's happening culturally, where everyone's like, it's a gold rush, and you're like, a lot of people got hurt in the gold rush. So my thing with ayahuasca is it's been amazing for me in it, but I also couldn't, I don't know exactly what did what. So, so it's been great for me. Full stop.
So, to say more about, I know you've said it in other places, but just for the sake of my people who have may not have heard you talk about it, why are you so passionate about it? Like, what has it done for you? what was the before and then what was the after?
Well, I almost need to put it all. It's been like 4 years of, or 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 years of, uh, ayahuasca probably 15 times, and then DMT, 5-MeO DMT once, which kind of exploded my consciousness in a very terrifying way. It was about an 8-month recovery, give or take, and then MDMA in the last year has been really transformative. Basically, I was sort of, I would say I was probably caught up in feeling bad all the time and caught up in the narrative of victimization and anger and grudge holding, and that slowly, I was an atheist. Now I believe in a central creation force, and yeah, so and that happened via ayahuasca, 5-MeO DMT, Bufo, and MDMA. And now I would say I'm a better person overall. I'm happier. I'm better at comedy, which is fucking hilarious. Um, More
Why,
popular.
wait, why is that
Um,
hilarious? I don't get it.
because I'm 50 and I already did, and you're not really, it's not the way it usually works for people. So usually it works like you start when you're 20 and you get great around 29, and it usually, yeah, so I guess I am right in that it takes 10 to 15 years, and it did take me 10 to 15 years to get very good at it, but but I got better in the last year and a half after the Bufo, which is it's just an odd thing, and people can tell visually, meaning the amount of people the amount of people that watch my new special on Netflix called Crazy Good is almost double the amount of people that watch blocks
Mm,
in the first week.
congratulations. I'm so
So,
happy for
and
you.
that's not, thank you. Yeah, so that's there's no real it's not like I heard a joke and changed my mind about you. They can eyeball it. And that's insane to me. So that's the sort of thing that I'm dealing with. It's like dealing with, or I've been privy to, or I've been. That's been. It's definitely a gift. And it was a, it was a tough. The gift was a little tough sometimes. Um, it was a little tough to comprehend being in the 5-MeO aftermath. And then the MDMA in the last year has really gotten rid of a lot of excess. The word trauma is overused, but I just had stuff in my body that I would yell at therapists like, "This is in my body," and they, um, it the I believe the MDMA kind of got it out, and maybe a little bit of ketamine. Again, I've done so many things that it's hard to know what did what. But I guess I just didn't stop trying things because I always felt like this isn't the way I'm supposed to feel. I know I can feel better. Like I know like and part of it was probably ambition of like I want to have a shinier life, but the what I didn't realize is my life was already incredibly shiny. I just couldn't see it.
Mm.
And I was like incapable of seeing it. I was focused on, the ways in which I was uh being given the short end of the stick, or life's not fair, or why does this person, or why does that person, and I said this on Joe Rogan, I'll say it here, it's good enough for Joe Rogan, it's good enough for CK.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
The
it.
Yes, yeah, the I said I used to think life wasn't fair, and then it turns out I was right. Life's not fair. No one's life should be as good as mine. It is unfair, but it's unfair in the totally opposite way than I thought it was. It's unfair in my direction. And it took me all that stuff to kind of come to that conclusion. And again, or I should say, it wasn't a, I cannot say that I did it through yoga and meditation. I did it through these, medicine experiences, and it was kind of taken out of me. I guess I invited it out, but I cannot. Somebody was like, why don't you, focus on all the stuff you've done? And I was like, because it's barely mine. There's nothing to take credit for. It's like I put myself in a position to change, and it changed. The thing in me changed. I can't say that and I remember wrestling it to the ground and I said, Lee, it just left.
Mm.
So, I can't say like I read 10,000 books and then having said that, I don't believe that I took the easy way out. It was very trying, but it was, things change suddenly and then all at once, kind of.
Well, congratulations. For those who are familiar with the medicine path, they know that it's not an easy path. People have the illusion like, oh, yeah, just take this silver bullet, panacea, everything will be great. But actually, it takes massive amount of energy, intentions, effort to face whatever we gotta face in Pandora, whatever is in the Pandora's box. And
Yeah, and the thing of it is, I can't even say that I faced a particular, there was no one. I mean, the Bufo experience, 5-MeO DMT, aka Bufo alvarius, was terrifying, but it wasn't, I didn't come face to face with a demon or my father or my uncle or my it was none of that. It was just, it was, it, my consciousness was totally rattled in a way that was very terrifying and very, very hard to comprehend. And um, so yeah, like even the idea of like it's trying in a way of like intention and all that stuff, I just kept doing it, feeling like I can feel better than this. I know I can feel better. I know this shouldn't, this is a waste of my life, the way I feel. So I just kept pursuing it and pursuing it with that. I guess that would be the intention. But there is something selfish about that, you know? It's like I wanted to be in the VIP, so to speak. And not even the VIP, not even the VIP of um, you know, cool people. I meant like VIP, like people that are enjoying their life and experiencing love and experiencing a fuller range of emotions. That was always my goal. And experiencing more joy, which, again, not it's not altruistic. I wasn't then, and then I'm going to spread it I'm going to take the joy and I'm going to spread it. It was like, no, I don't want a joy for me. Because I felt like there's a emotion that I just don't experience. So that was more the pursuit. So it was selfish. Now now I would also like say like I personally think that's okay. You know.
so what you just said, by the way, Neil, just FYI, you may not know much about my journey or my personal experience, but what you describe is very much mine as well. Very accomplished academically, professionally, all these things, but I couldn't feel anything. I didn't have the joy. I had
Yeah.
experienced numbness. I was like, whoa, this is
Yep.
this is not what I want to feel. I don't want to spend the next few decades of my life feeling this way. So I kept pursuing these paths. My background is a biomedical engineer, PhD from UCLA, worked for the University of California, all these things, blah, 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 right? So the path I ended up, shamanism, jungle medicine, is like the total opposite of what I was trained to do. So
Yeah.
Very much appreciative. Same breakthrough, right? These barriers slash dragons slash saboteurs through the process dissolve, and then I
I
could
didn't experience
see,
any of that. I didn't
you know,
experience any of that.
you just
Saboteurs, dragons, none of that. I didn't. No, I. There were no. There was no direct, um, you know, conflict that I came face to face with. It was more like I'm in alive in a human consciousness that I don't quite understand right now. And it was really scary, but it was scary in that, like, I thought I told someone I was aiming for God and I missed my stop. Like, it was dicey. So yeah, I can't say that there were any archetypes in terms of like Joseph Campbell or something, you know?
yeah, and then it's all good, but you ended up finding that soligria, the joy that was already in front of you, you just didn't see it, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's my
Yeah.
experience as well. One of the realization I was like, wow, I'm so blessed. And, to your earlier point, life is unfair and it's in my favor that is unfair. I finally got to see that versus just, my inner critic criticizing why I don't have the gap and this and that and comparison and all these other things. So,
Yeah, and I
um,
don't even be and that is the trap of gratitude, or it's not the trap of gratitude. I think people go, I don't want to be grateful. I mean, I've seen people react to me talking about gratitude a few different ways. One of the ways is like, I earn what I got. Okay. So I don't want to say that I'm lucky. It's like, did you earn what you got? 100 million record pop singer? Did you earn it? Or did you just get a voice and then, like, get a physical voice and then you're good looking and then you pursue uh uh a job as a pop artist? I'm not saying it wasn't difficult. I'm just saying that's a heck of a hand to be dealt. It's like if you're dealt uh two aces and two kings and then you discard one and you get a king. Yeah, it's you did play the hand well. You did play the hand correctly, but the hand did a lot of the work. And then the other one is people think that if they don't want to be publicly grateful because they're afraid that people will come on down on them. It's like, what's cisgendered and all that stuff, that you have to constantly be aggrieved on social media for people, uh for to not get yelled at.
so I'm curious, Neil.
So, but I don't care.
Yeah, great. I love your, what will be a word to describe it? Well, the lack of caring about how, but you're just expressing your
Well,
unique.
I do. And when I say I don't care, it's like it must be done, and I can just stay out of the comments, and I'm not gonna. It seems ungrateful to have the life I have and constantly be like spitting and cussing and gesticulating. Like, what is this? Because there are people that are starving. You know what I mean? Like, every problem can't be my problem. I think appreciation is must be given.
So you've been quite public about your ayahuasca experience, psychedelics, MDMA and Bufo. Have others come to you and say, "Hey, you know what? I wanted to experience this for myself as well." Whether it's people who are in your audience or people who are your friends, celebrities, etc. What are some of the aftermath, sort of behind the scenes as you?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about it. I mean, the good and the bad news is, like, a lot of people ask about it and then, very few follow up because it's scary, and it's difficult, and it's totally unknown. It's categorically different than anything I've personally experienced in human life. So I can't, so people go, yeah, man, they come at like, I want to do that. Like, it's like, I want to go, to Machu Picchu, or I want to go to Hawaii, or I want to go to, Nepal. But then once you go, okay, here are the flight times to Nepal, and you gotta change 3 flights, and it's going to take, 36 hours. And then once you get into the specifics, generally speaking, 80 to 90% of the people kind of fall off,
Well, what about the
which
10%?
is fine.
Yeah, but what about the 10%?
Uh, yeah, the 10%, some have enjoyed it. Some have, yeah, I've had friends that have really, that have gotten a lot from it and have done it, numerous times. Um, I've had friends that were like, did it once, were like, nah. I've had like the full gamut of experience of like, I didn't like it. I didn't like the group. I didn't like how it made me feel. I got sick. So there is no, I don't have a overnight success story for anyone, or of anyone that I've recommended, like, and I changed their life. I haven't changed anybody's life, but, um, I stand by my experience for sure.
Do you feel that more and more celebrities, people with some kind of fame, talking about this is helpful, or like, nah, that's just another thing to talk about?
Well, there's a thing in 12-step groups that you're not supposed to talk about it publicly.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Like
that.
if you're in, yes, yeah, if you're
I
in
didn't know that.
Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't say I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the reason is very obvious once I tell you, because if I'm a celebrity and I say I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous and I've been sober 11 years and the program works great, and then I get busted for a DUI,
Uh,
then everybody goes, "Oh, AA don't work." So with, you know, with ayahuasca, I often wonder, like, should I even be talking about it? Because, I just don't know, honestly. I don't know if I'm a good I don't know if I'm a good example. I don't know if, I think people will look to discount it if I'm a jerk, or if I say a joke they don't like, or, they'll blame it on ayahuasca. So I don't, or if they, people don't like when I say, like, I was an atheist and then I drank this medicine, and I no longer am an atheist. They're like, yeah, but that could be anything. Okay, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying that's my understanding of what happened to me, but I'm not mad if you don't. I don't need you to eat meat. I don't have a different opinion about homosexuality. I'm not, proselytizing for any of it.
you're just
Um,
sharing your experience.
and yeah, exactly. And am I getting the word out? Maybe. I just think I think with certain things there is a real lack, especially in mental health. I think there's a real lack of information. And because if you go to a therapist, they're all Freudian. No therapist tells you, hey, there's 15 different modalities. You could do, CBT, you could do, Freudian, you could do Jungian, you could do, somatic. They don't tell you. They just go, you want a car? I sell cars. They don't tell you they sell Volvos. So I would say the thing that I would, not like anyone's assailing my publicity about all this stuff, is there's just, I didn't know about a lot of this stuff till I saw it on Reddit. And then with ayahuasca, there was an article in the New York Times that a friend of mine sent me, and So is the New York Times responsible, irresponsible? It's like, I don't know. I like, I, the truth is I don't know. And like I said, thankfully or hopefully I continue to caveat it with for me. It's worked for me. Doesn't work all the time. Doesn't work. Ah, ah, ah. You know.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's for sure that you do a lot is you provide a lot of qualifiers and caveats. It's for me. It may not
Yeah,
work
it's
for
almost
you.
aggravating.
Every conversation I have with you, there's also just lots of qualifier. Hey, how's your experience? Yeah, yeah, it's great. And it's for me. It may not work for you. It's almost
Well,
every
that's
single
the
conversation.
yeah, but that's the thing. That's right. It's because coming from comedy, people. I will post a video on Instagram from a Netflix special. I've been paid multiple times, like, and then people write, "This isn't funny," and it's like, dog, 1,000 people. You just watched 1,000 people laugh at it, and now you think your personal opinion is the authoritative opinion about what is funny. So I feel the same way about all this stuff. It's for me. Ayahuasca is funny.
It is funny, actually. It's.
It
I,
is very
I,
funny.
I personally think it's the funniest when your head's in the bucket. That is the opportunity for the sangria, in my personal opinion, in my personal experience. Again, qualifier.
Yep.
um,
Yeah. Great.
so what about? I know that part of the theme of your podcast, more and more you ask, especially on the Jerry Seinfeld episode, which I listened to, by the way, it's amazing. You asking
Thank you.
multiple times about spirituality, and then he was like, "Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it in so many ways." In my opinion,
He
I don't know.
doesn't. He doesn't really see it. Yeah. But he ended up sort of spilling the beans with the. Sometimes I wonder if I planned all this. You know. Um, where he said like I look at my life and I'm like, did I pick this before I got here? Because it's really suits me. Um, yeah, and I don't with Jerry it was more like I'm trying to figure out what he's getting at. And that was the my sort of predisposition for him in particular. But I don't with some people I don't mention it at all. Some people I so yeah, like because I couldn't even tell you my own spirituality. I mean, I could like tell you, but it's not doesn't fit into um, it's not Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever. It's kind of nothing. I mean, it's not. I think of religion as franchises, like Five Guys and Burger King and McDonald's and all that stuff. That's basically like the world religions just all took a region and that's the God franchise in their region. Because if you look at Judaism and Islam, it's like watching a romantic comedy where they're both dating the same guy, where you're like, wait a minute, so both of your holy sites are the same, and you think it's a different God? Okay, so you're both dating a guy who lives at the same address, probably a different guy. That's right. Keep fighting, everybody. So yeah, I just feel like that's all human intervention. Religion is human intervention, and a spiritual connection is just something. It's like an ineffable thing, you know.
For me, Bruce Lee said this best. He said religion to spirituality or to God is like the finger pointing at the moon. Look at the moon, don't look at the finger. So very much to your earlier comment
Yeah,
about franchises. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yep.
so how would you
I think
articulate?
mine's better. I think mine is better than Bruce Lee's. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Well, it's definitely more
Not Bruce
relatable.
Lee,
Five.
not funny at all. Bruce is
I,
not funny at all. Mine's pretty funny. Mine's not hilarious, but it's not bad. Yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say?
so how would you articulate your, you know, brand, your relationship?
The truth is I don't know. The truth is I don't. I feel. Well, here's what I'll say. It's Jerry Seinfeld talked about having kids, and it was like seeing sex from the other side. And what he meant was that there's an invisible world that that medicine can be a portal for. It'll be a portal to get you into the world, and um, and that's how I feel now. I feel like I take life way less literally, and I take it more uh, like, yeah, this is what I'm seeing. But I think that there's significantly more that I cannot see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trained as a PhD scientist. So before ayahuasca, it's not so much of an atheist, but definitely more agnostic, right? If I can measure it, if there's no
Yeah.
data, it doesn't exist. And then I had my first cup, 45 minutes in, had my mystical experience. And I'm like, oh, how wrong was I? How hubristic, how arrogant was I to think that if human beings
You
could
know what's funny
measure.
is I don't think that you're hubristic. I think if I like when I had the same experience, I just went like, oh, okay. I was not given any what I could feel as proof. So you understand, central creation force. This is how I'm oriented. I wasn't given proof there, and then I could argue like, or not like I wasn't given proof. I didn't have the nerve endings to sense it. You know, so once those nerve endings either came about or the my dulled nerve endings could sense it more profoundly, then I was like, okay, I just needed something. It's like, if God, if you exist, knock twice, and then nothing happens, and then at a certain point you drink ayahuasca and you hear two knocks and you're like, oh, all right, well, yeah, no, that's right, I just needed something. So you won't get any doubt from me again.
Yeah. Um, so you never use this word, but what I'm hearing you say in your journey so far is faith.
I
You
don't use the
start.
word journey other than jokingly.
Well, faith, right? Because you kept at it. You believe deeply for yourself. I want to feel differently than what I'm experiencing. So you kept trying different modalities and different things. How do you how do you think about faith for yourself in this connection, this spirituality, divine,
Well,
whatever?
I don't. Again, faith implies um, a belief in something that I can't. I'm taking some sort of
Mm-hmm.
logical leap on. I'm not taking a logical leap on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it would be like saying I'm gonna take a leap of faith that the temperature in the room I'm in is room temperature. There's no leap of faith there. It's probably around 73 in this room. I'm not like the problem is once you start killing people and making laws and all this stuff and like rules, and you can't have sex this way at this time with this meal and all that. That's where it just gets silly. I don't need anyone else to agree with me. I just can't pretend that I didn't see or I didn't experience what I've experienced. And that and the great news is I've been able to carry it with me. It's like a good grudge. It's a grudge that I carry with me, but it's positive, and
Oh yeah.
like I'm still like still good mad. I'm mad but good. I'm still, that thing happened and I can't, my body won't forget it.
yeah, the way you put words together, I've never heard a, the way you articulate it. This is like a good grudge. That's definitely provocative. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so on that note, how do you integrate all of these realizations, insights into your life outside of the medicine, outside of ceremonies, outside of these quote unquote journeys? I don't, use that word often, but how do you integrate
I
it?
mean, I almost say I want you to keep using journey so that you don't, you not you in particular, but the self-help community doesn't ruin other words. Because if you don't use journey, then you have to use process, and that'll take 8 months to ruin process, and then we'll be out of words. Um, uh, I mean, again, people say like, yeah, a lot of the work's integration. I don't, because of my job, which is basically just thinker and talker, I get to just think all the time. So I, I'm always integrating. It was just, again, it was supposedly integrating bad grudges. So now that I finally have a good grudge, it's more. I mean, I keep I write in a I do more gratitude checklists. I do 4 of those a day. Ideally, sometimes it's only 2, but I do 4 a day. I've already done one today, and where I am, it's 10:40. So, but if you haven't done, like, I just do a checklist of things that I feel grateful for, and um, it was at the beginning, it was more like material things like money and cars. I'm kidding. All my hot rods. No, I don't have any hot rods. The It was more money and success and now it's things. I'm thankful for mind shift changes.
Mm,
Um, or I should just say mind shifts. I'm thankful for mind shifts. I'm thankful for different understandings of my own life. I'm different consciousness, peace, love, gratitude. Like, it's like I think of it as my life. I think because of the changes that have happened, I think of it. I'm grateful, and I've been ending my checklist with like, thank you so much. I love it. Like it's a gift I've been given. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much for this life. I love it.
mm,
Instead of like just constantly like, oh, yeah, it's good, but what about the no, I love this is so great. I'm not gonna be given a gift. It's like a friend of mine who complains a lot, and he's a very popular comedian, and he used to work in LA in Long Beach. An old boat, an old like steamliner called the Queen Mary that's in Long Beach, and there's a restaurant there, and my buddy used to be like a waiter at the Queen Mary 15 years ago, and now he's a very successful comedian and podcaster, and uh, and he's a big complainer. And I would say, dude, if I'm God, I hear you complain, and I go, wait, is that the kid from the Queen Mary? Didn't we give him the everything package, and he's still complaining? Like, and then the punchline is, all right, give him cancer. But so like I'm more in terms of integration. It's just keep almost get like when they go to a pool with like the pH thing. If you do that like once a day with like what your inner monologue and your inner feeling is, I think that's a good way to do some integration. It's all we have to diagnose ourselves for the most part. So in terms of like integration, I think self-diagnosis is probably the maybe a better way to say it, or just and then try to remember the stuff that you were thinking and feeling when you were on medicine or whatever your thing is, or in prayer or in nature or whatever. Like try to good grudge it. Trademark.
Trademark. Verb it. Verb it.
Yep.
Um, so actually on that note, it reminds me of something that a dear friend of mine said to me during his ceremony. He did it last weekend. He said that it was a struggle. It was quite challenging. But his mindset around it is, hey, God, if you think this is what I need, give it to me. Right? Thank you so much for giving me whatever it is that I needed. Which was actually
Yeah.
quite enlightening for me personally. Because if it's too much, I would ask for mercy, like thank you, but like this is too much. Versus for him, he's like, thank you, bring it on, let's go, right? If you think this is what I need, give it to me. So to your point, this whole gratitude thing, whether it's good grudges or maybe the not so pleasant things, I love that you're treating this
Well,
gratitude.
it's also another, yeah, it's another thing. Like if you go to a good restaurant and it's no substitutions, the menu's the menu. Life is kind of like that. Like, no, this is it. You want it or not? Like it's like you want it better, for worse, for all the things. Do you want you can change it on your own, but like, or you can try to change it on your own. You can make steps that could work toward changing it. But the just like, hey, stop it, is a bit like, a lot of it comes down to like, all right, well, what if the force doesn't stop it? How are you going to deal with it? You know?
Yeah.
And I've had the experience, and maybe you agree with this, is like the darkest or hardest parts of ceremonies have been probably the most helpful long term. I think that's where you're actually changing your brain. But it's like a software update, but you're awake for it, which is a little rough. Normally the computer goes to sleep.
Yep. I've been in this journey for 6+
Oh,
years, and there are specific moments that were the hardest. That I was like, oh man, I'm so grateful for those moments. I don't know if you have those moments like logged in your
in
brain.
retrospect, yeah. I mean, all the Bufo stuff was unbearable almost. I almost killed myself, but I didn't. And and I almost killed myself because I couldn't understand it. It was incomprehensible. It was like I was, I was looking for a 30,000 foot view and I got a 30 trillion foot view. And it was almost unbearable, but I got a little bit better every day, and then after 8 months or so, and then I was a better version of myself, or
Speaking
what
of
I
which,
consider a better version of myself.
this is a random question. I'm curious, since you are, an avid pop culture. I'm assuming I'm projecting, right? Have you ever watched the movie or the video clip, The Egg? Have you ever seen that?
I had it open on my desktop for like 6 months, and I never watched it.
Okay, all right. So consider maybe a sign from the universe or CK, right? So when people these days ask me, "Hey, what's your spirituality?" rather than giving into this whole long conversations, I just send them the egg. So check it out. I
Yeah, I mean, I also think like if people ask what's your spirituality, it's kind of I don't I kind of feel like it's like, well, hey, what's your walk like? I can't I don't know why people would want to know. It's like, just look at it.
mm,
I get we're talking on a spiritual podcast, but like, or whatever the category is, but like uh, it's like, hey, how do you breathe? I just breathe, like I breathe the way my body wants to breathe. So you could tell them watch the egg, or you tell them well, or you could shame them the way I just did by saying, it's like, ask me what my walk is like. Just look at my walk.
um, okay, let me ask you a question about Jerry specifically, or reference him a little bit. So he's known to have the don't break the chain method, right? He's been doing that for years, writing a joke a day, and people who is inspired by Jerry is like, oh, this is how you could
Yeah, I also don't
mastery.
agree. There's no possible way he writes every day. But go ahead. If everybody wants to believe that, God bless.
Well, I
But
mean, you know him personally, so maybe you can debunk that myth, right? But that's
well, I know, but I just don't. There are days where you cannot. I didn't journal 5 days ago because I was trying. It's like I couldn't. Things were happening that prevented it from me being able to. I had too many things I had to do. So, if I think the don't break the chain thing might be meditation, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe that Jerry writes every day. I don't know him well enough to say whether that's true or not. I will say I don't believe it.
okay. Besides the point, I was gonna ask you: is there something like that for you, where you are just this is non-negotiable? I'm going to do this discipline, like the gratitude bullet thing that you mentioned. Is there anything else?
Yeah, but to that point, I didn't do it a few days ago, and I didn't go like I ruined everything. It's all these things are ideals, and you try to live up to them, but there is nothing other than sleeping and eating, and even sometimes I don't sleep. There are days I don't, and whatever, not in a long time, but like work wise or whatever, I haven't been able to sleep. So there is nothing I do. I think it would be a shame to not pursue something because you think it's going to be too hard or you're not going to live up to it. Um, the you know what I mean? Like I think in terms of being attractive, I think a better way to do it would be like try to do it every day. If you don't, no big deal. You know?
So you're not militant or harsh to yourself about sticking with your disciplines. That's what I'm hearing. You're more like
No, I have
flexible.
a weekly new joke show in LA that I do that I've done for like 13 years. I don't sometimes I'm not there, but I try to write new jokes there. I not even try. I think I've successfully had new jokes there every time I've done it. A lot, 80% of them are bad or 90% of them. But the 10% you end up, I've written 5.5 hours in 15 years. So like I stand by my method, and I think it's smart to put things in place that make you I don't think that we're naturally disciplined for the most part. I think human beings our factory settings are like towards sloth and and laziness because that's why it's in the Bible as like this is bad. If it wasn't bad, if it wasn't a problem, they wouldn't mention it. Like jaywalking's not in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like it's just not that big a human problem. Um, so I think giving yourself, incentivizing yourself to have good habits is a good habit to have. Um, but I can, I can also be incredibly lazy and sullen and on my computer and looking at Reddit and so but then I have to go like, all right, you have to kind of parent yourself and be like, all right, buddy, you gotta hit the books or whatever. Um, so yeah. So I think aspire to, it's the old aim for the stars, and if you don't, you'll hit the moon or whatever. Like I aim for checklisting several times a day. I aim to four. If I only get two, I don't consider it a failure.
So quick question on that.
Because
The
then it's
people
just
that
negative energy for me. It's just negative energy for me. It's not, nothing positive is coming from me being negative.
so actually on that
I know
note,
what the aspiration is. Yeah,
mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, the people who are listening to this podcast, right? Chances are they're, you know, very ambitious. They're disciplined. They want to do the work, right? They want to aim for mastery. So one of the common themes that I come across is they're really, really harsh on themselves. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I can speak about that personally, right? So how have you been able to be a little kinder, be a little gentler to yourself, so that way you don't aim for that perfections, or that inner critic is, you know, beating down on
Look,
you?
I think you can aim. I think it's okay to aim for perfection. Chappelle used to criticize me and be like, Brennan's a perfectionist. Yeah, motherfucker. And sometimes the shit's perfect. Like I'm not going to apologize for like, I'm in a position now where my Netflix specials have to be great because I'm not a charismatic enough performer I can't have a B minus premise for a joke and charm it in. It's like my jokes need to be structurally pretty flawless. So I cannot have that standard for myself, but the audience is going to, so the joke's not going to work. So I might as well not move it up. I'm already a snob, um, and I do have personal, uh, I have personal standards. I think you should absolutely have standards. I think that I think to call it perfectionist is putting a negative connotation on something that is basically good. Now, do you do you ruin your life about it? No, but just get as close as you can to perfect. And there are things like on my latest Netflix special, like I did a reshoot. It cost me $10,000. All right, I don't. I needed, and then my girlfriend watched it and was like, "This is better." Yes, it is that from me obsessing and ruminating and figuring out a way to do it cheaply and call my buddy and saying, "Can I use your storage space?" and whatever. Yes, um, I think that is a galvanizing force. I think it gets to a point where you have to realize none of this really makes a difference. The reason people like the special is because of my life force. The reshoot and all that stuff, it's almost superstition on my part. This level of perfectionism. It's like no one notices the segues or notices that you repeated like no one really notices. They just remember like that joke about sex and that joke about skin cancer and that joke about so I'm all for sort of following your own intuition and your muse in terms of how good a thing can be. But I also think at a certain point, I almost said there's a joke in the Quran. There's a line in the Quran um, where it says the hoarding of money is the act of a faithless man, right?
Wait,
In
wait, say that
some
again. One more
ways,
time. Say that one more time.
the hoarding of money is the act of a faithless man.
Mm.
I don't know what the exact quote is. That's how it's been told to me. So I think in some ways the you know the the pursuit of hyper perfectionism is the act of a faithless man. In some ways, like I'm not saying if you work for Boeing, cut corners. The perfect. You don't guys don't need to aim for perfect. I think with safety stuff like that, you should aim for perfection. But I think with uh, a personal thing I think you should follow your feelings, but I think you don't ruin your life because I think it just comes down to like things are either going to work or they're not. I think it was like I was again, forgive me, but I was spiritually aligned and attuned, whatever, enough for people to finally go, yeah, I want that. I want to watch that guy for 53 minutes more than they did before.
Have you?
So,
So
and again, so the reshoot didn't really help but like the getting, changing my inner spirit helped.
great. So let me do a
But
follow up
in some
question.
ways you could say that, in some ways you could say that the dogged pursuit of a different inner spirit is a form of perfectionism. I would almost say it's spiritual greed, but
I mean, there are different words to describe this, but I wanted to double click on what you just said, the life force part of it. I have been in the presence of some spiritual leaders. Dalai Lama is an example. You know, China has really strong spiritual force, right? You've experienced that personally as well. So to me, these are
Hmm.
people who I'm willing to travel long distance to receive or be in the presence of their transmission, right? And you actually touched upon this. So you also happen to be in an industry where there are lots of people with great magnitude of force, life force, whatever, whether it's their
Yeah,
personality
they
or
give really, really, really charismatic people. Yeah, like the most charismatic people on earth.
right. So having again, you have more data point than I because I never met those people. So giving that frame, what how do you articulate this life force, spiritual force, even being one yourself,
Well,
right? So
I
how do
mean,
you articulate
the definition of charisma is a person who, when they enter a room, you want to say yes to them before you know what the question is. So it's a energetic, warmth, smile, eye contact, carriage, movement, tone of voice, uh, facial expressions, etc. I think in a lot of ways the people a lot of my cohorts in comedy are it's not coming from a good place, I don't think, a lot of times. So I think in terms of spirituality, or if you wanted Chana or the Dalai Lama or whomever, Chana's had a real humility to him. I've never dealt with the Dalai Lama, but and I never will. But I'm saying if he doesn't stop his madness with China, I never will. The I just think there's a humility to it, and in terms of my own, I just don't have much anger. I used to read angry, and now I don't. I don't think so. Um, my face is still what it is. My tone of voice is still what it is, but there's no like a lot less sourness in my note, and there's a lot less sourness. It's what Chappelle calls this. If you can't see it, I'm flicking it's energy coming out of my neck, and meaning what message are you giving off without saying a word.
okay, so follow up would be for those that want to expand, amplify, multiply, unlock, whatever word you use.
The unlocking, I mean, again, I don't, the thing that I don't want to, the thing that I think may be a mistake for people culturally is to make these, I think a lot of times I've noticed people are doing all these things, um, drinking medicine, sweat lodges, 100 ounces of water a day, fasting, all the stuff that people do now, right? They're almost doing it just as a hack for money. And I think it can't be that. I think a buddy of mine said when we did ayahuasca the first time, he goes, "Are we going to be able to be capitalists after this?" And I laughed and I was like, "Yeah, we will be." I find myself getting less capitalist, and like in a way that's not good for my bottom line, but I don't care because my values are different now. So, and whatever. So I almost don't want to answer the question because I don't want it to be like I don't want it to be like charisma school, you know? It's we talked about spiritual growth on here, I think, a lot, and I think if that's something that interests you, and again, I did approach it from a place of greed. I don't think wanted I don't think I did it to be a bigger comedian, honestly. Uh I will admit to wanting to be like, happier and more joyful, because those are sort of the sugar. That's the sugar of the emotional system, and I love sugar. Um, but I think the like, how do you? I don't know how you get as charismatic as Kevin Hart or Dave Chappelle. That's not. It's not anything I can. I don't think they can tell you. They they I think all of these things, if not you, if used improperly, are like really a abuse, you know, of power. Of if you're just using it for your own personal, for just to get attention and money, it's like, but if you can use it in some ways, like that guy Chana, I'm betting he's not going to be a billionaire at any point, like say Kevin Hart is, and but that's its own reward, you know. Having settled human energy is its own reward, or kind human energy, or pleased or happy or warm, it cannot be so I can rise and grind, you know.
Yep. So Neal,
So
before
that's
you go,
the so I'm answering with a non-answer.
well, Neal, I know that you gotta go, so let me just take a moment to really acknowledge you, dude. Just from the moment we met, your sincerity, your honesty, your raw candor, your humor, and really, I really appreciate just how you're going through this journey. Your favorite word, with such candor and honesty, and a lot of people are taking inspiration from you, even though you don't want them to, even though you're only sharing your story. But I certainly
I
am
am
very
I am
happy.
one possibility. I am one possibility out of 8 billion.
Yeah. So appreciate you and look for the
Um,
singing ceremony
yeah, of
with you.
course, man.
Yeah. Enjoy
Yes,
the rest of
sir.
your time
Keep
in
me in the
Hawaii.
loop, CK.
Yeah, we'll
Thanks,
do.
buddy.
Have a good one. Cheers. Bye.